it, everybody. This is the one. This is the video that's gonna blow up my channel and put me on the map. Gonna make me more popular than them old Greg clips. Remember them old Greg clips? I'm making a Star Wars video at a time when the popularity and love for the franchise is at an all-time high. They just had a massively successful re-release of an all-time classic. Man, why am I making this fucking video right now? And if you want to see more videos that no one asked for, remember to like, subscribe, comment, and share. Yeah. So today we're going to be talking about Cal Kestis, who is not even really arguably, that is just straight up the best Star Wars character that Disney Star Wars has come up with. Like, it's not even close. He's pretty much the only one worth talking about. Twice I went out of my way to play the Star Wars Jedi games, despite the fact that EA is the devil, and I generally refuse to buy anything from them. But I made an exception for this one series because the game director is Stig Asmussen. This fucking guy. This might not mean a whole lot to you, but this gentleman and scholar is the game director of the original God of War 3. You know, back in the good old days when Kratos wasn't shitty. So I completely played through and platinumed both Fallen Order and Survivor, and now we're going to talk about the main character of that particular franchise, Cal Kestis. So let's get started. So at the beginning of the game, Cal is just like this little ginger Padawan kid. He's like 13 years old, and everything's just fine and dandy. He's chilling with his master, you know, being trained as a child soldier like all the Jedi, when all of a sudden, out of fucking nowhere, Order 66 drops. And if you don't know what Order 66 is, I don't know what the fuck you're watching this video for. His master dies, he steals his lightsaber, and he goes on the run. Flash forward 5 years. Cal's not done anything even semi-Jedi related that entire time. He's working at some kind of scrapyard in hiding, just posing as like a regular person. Basically just laying low and trying not to be found out by the Empire. This does not last very long. He pretty spectacularly outs himself as a Jedi and has to go on the run pretty much at the very start of the game. I mean, bro, if you're gonna hide as a Jedi, don't carry a fucking lightsaber on you. You're at work. What would you even need it for? Anyway, right when he's about to be killed by the Empire, he gets saved by these two random strangers who just show up out of fucking nowhere. He's like, hey, broski, you want to live? Come with us. He's like, yeah, sure, okay, let's do that. So they tell Cal about this special magic MacGuffin that's basically an old Jedi relic of some kind that holds the names and locations of a bunch of Force-sensitive children, and that they need to go after this because with this, they can rebuild the Jedi Order. So then the story becomes like a race against time where Cal as well as the second sister are both hunting this relic, and whoever gets it is going to get the name of all these Force-sensitive children, to which they can expand their side of the conflict. Cal's character arc in this game consists of a couple of different things. One is him relearning all of his Jedi abilities and re-accepting his role as a Jedi, something that he had given up on previously. Another him is getting over his pretty extreme survivor's guilt, as he feels really bad that he survived Order 66 when so many other people who he thought as being more worthy, who would have been able to fight against the Empire and not just go in hiding for all those years, died in his place. He personally believes that his master's sacrifice was wasted, as if his master would have lived in his place, he probably would have been able to do something against the Empire, and all Cal did was hide and essentially cower. So a big part of his story is not only coming to the acceptance of this and being able to move past it and forgive himself, but also becoming the person that he believes his mentor would have wanted him to be. And not only becoming a Jedi as far as physical ability goes, but also as far as the way he behaves and his actions from this point on. And then the last part is about the relic MacGuffin thing that has all the Jedi kid names. He has this inner conflict about it where if he does find the relic and then do something about it and try to use these little kids' names to rebuild the Jedi Order, he will then be putting all these children in danger and in the crosshairs of the Empire. This is a very serious conflict for him because the Jedi Order is his home. It's the only place he's comfortable. It's the only thing he knows. So by keeping these kids safe and not using their names to rebuild the Jedi Order, he's essentially saying goodbye to the only home he's ever known, and the thing he wants more than anything else in this world. And by the end of the game, he does decide to not use the relic and say his final goodbye to the Jedi Order. He comes to the realization that the Jedi Order will live through him and that he will live his life in a way that honors the Jedi, even if they will die with him. This is not a bad story or arc or character. He's a perfectly adequate, very nice person, very kind and just, and, you know, always does the right thing, and just, He's fucking boring, man. Cal is boring as shit in this game. One of my biggest issues with Fallen Order is that Cal is the most boring character in the entire game. Literally, every single other character that shows up in the game is more interesting than Cal. Everybody from the midget pilot to the bald lady to the albino girlfriend to the villain of the game are all vastly more interesting than he is. That is, of course, until Jedi Survivor. I mean, my God, this might be the most extreme example of an improvement in a character from one game to another I've seen in my life. I mean, just look at that beard. That is a really nice beard. You know, people like to say that the stubble beard is just a beard for pussies, but those people are just fucking haters who do not appreciate the subtle beauty of a nice stubble beard. That is a fine beard, Cal. Anyway, pretty much instantly at the start of this game, Cal is a million times better. They make it pretty clear at the beginning of this game that Cal is in a much darker place than he was at the end of the last one. At this point, he's known across the entire galaxy as essentially a terrorist. He's done everything from political assassinations to bombings to legitimate acts of terrorism, like doing insane, over-the-top violent acts for the sole purpose of causing terror among his enemies. That's what terrorism is. Over these past 5 years, his actions have been so dark and frowned upon that his entire crew from the last game has completely abandoned him and can no longer back his mission against the Empire. The first game was about Cal essentially like re-upping his oath to the Jedi and reaffirming that he is indeed a Jedi and will behave as such. But he completely abandoned that between games. By this point, Cal does not believe that he can actually defeat the Empire. He's lost all hope that winning against them is even possible. He's just trying to cause as much damage and terror among their forces as he possibly can before he inevitably gets killed by them. The Cal we see at the beginning of Jedi Survivor is a hopeless character. They essentially made him the inverse of Luke Skywalker. I've talked about this before, but Luke Skywalker's whole thing is essentially hope. You know, Star Wars, A New Hope. Luke Skywalker is the New Hope being introduced into a hopeless galaxy. Throughout the entirety of the original trilogy, he never once loses hope that things can be better. And even a character like Darth Vader, who everyone told him was pure evil and completely irredeemable, he never lost hope that he could save his soul. And he did. By the end of the trilogy, he was able to redeem the irredeemable character by never giving up on him and never losing hope that he can be a better person. This is why Last Jedi pissed off so many people, because they basically chose to just make him the complete opposite character. So what they did with Cal in Survivor is pretty cool, because Cal in the first game is very similar to Luke Skywalker in A New Hope. I mean, Luke doesn't have the whole survivor's guilt thing, but outside of that, they're pretty similar. But whereas Luke becomes a symbol for hope, Cal is what would happen if you take a good heroic Jedi and completely strip him of all hope. And according to this series, what you get is a fucking terrorist. And that's pretty fucking cool. This is shown pretty clearly in a mirror scene that happens at the very beginning of the game. In the first game, when Cal fights the Ninth Sister, we see that he still has that sort of Jedi mentality where he doesn't actually want to kill her. He still views her as a Jedi and wants to bring her back, much like you would see someone like Luke Skywalker do in the original trilogy. But in Jedi Survivor, Cal is so jaded that he doesn't even give her a fucking chance. After he has won the fight and Cal and the Ninth Sister both knows she cannot beat him, he says some cold as fuck shit and brutalizes the fuck out of her.
You were a Jedi Knight before you betrayed our order. Your name was Masana Tide. It's time to set you free.
Oh shit! That is one raw ass ginger. All right, so I'm not gonna go over the entire story of Survivor because that's a lot. That's a whole thing. But basically, it boils down to Cal finding another planet that is extremely difficult to get to. You basically have to like fly through a black hole and do all kinds of crazy shit just to arrive to the planet. So nobody really knows how to get there. And this sort of revives Cal's hope, because up until this point, he believed that there was no escape in the Empire, no defeat in the Empire. He and everybody else were just doomed to live under their control control forever. But finding this planet that A, the Empire doesn't know about, and B, isn't capable of getting there even if they did, makes Cal see an alternative future where he and everybody else can live in peace without the control of the Empire being over them. And that's where Bode comes into play. So Bode Akuna was a Jedi who survived Order 66, and then much like Cal, went into hiding. He eventually got married and had a daughter. Well, the Empire caught up with him and murdered his wife, and then Bode took his daughter and ran for it. But believing the Empire would eventually catch up with him and murder him and his daughter, he decided to contact them and make a deal. Basically, the deal was for the safety of him and his daughter, he would do missions for the Empire, like undercover black ops type stuff. Bode becomes a double agent working with the Empire while also working with Cal Kestis, although obviously Cal doesn't know that he works for the Empire. When Bode finds out about this planet and that he can escape the Empire with him and his daughter, he becomes just as excited as Cal does. And they work together to find a route to this planet so that they can all escape the Empire together. The problem is that Bode and Cal have a fundamental disagreement on exactly what they should do about this planet. Cal believes that they should use this planet as a safe haven for all enemies of the Empire, basically rebuilding an entire society there. Bode doesn't want this at all. He wants to let as few people in as possible because he believes that the more people they let in, the more likely it is for the Empire to find out about it and be able to basically go there and take that shit over too. Because of this, Bode turns on Cal, tries to kill him, and go to the planet with just him and his daughter and no one else, essentially abandoning a bunch of innocent people to the horrors of the Empire's will. This eventually leads to a face-off between Cal and Bode on the planet to decide the future of the planet as well as who they're going to allow to come there. Come there. Right, okay. You see, the game uses Bode as a foil to Cal. Cal is a character who has lost all hope in the future of the Jedi and really the future of anything outside of the Empire's control. While he still cares about the people around him, he's clearly dulled his senses to the damage that the Empire has done. At the beginning of the game, Cal has a whole new crew that he replaced his old crew who abandoned him with, and they all get wiped out in the first level. Cal doesn't really seem to care as much as he should. At this point in the story, he is on a single-minded path of self-destruction, just trying to do as much damage as possible to the Empire, not really caring about what happens to him or the people around him. At least not as much as he used to and probably should. Bode is introduced in the story as the extreme version of Cal. Cal is on his way of losing all hope. Bode already has. Bode no longer cares about anyone or anything outside of him and his daughter. He believes that the Empire has already won and cannot possibly be defeated. Through Cal meeting Bode, he sees a version of himself that he could become if he continues down this path that he's going. And by the end of the game, he decides that he does not want to go down that path. However, one of the good things about this game is that despite this sounding like they kind of forgot about Cal's past, they actually didn't. By the end of Fallen Order, Cal learns to act in the way that a true Jedi should act, as well as not running away from his responsibilities. He loses that to an extent by the beginning of Jedi Survivor, but the decisions that he makes by the end of Jedi Survivor are reflected by not only his arc that he went through in Survivor, but also what he went through in Fallen Order. By the end of his fight with Bode, he still chooses to murder Bode, a not very Jedi-like thing. That's the kind of thing that Cal would have done at the beginning of Survivor. He is still very much this brutal, terrorist-like person. But after he finds this planet and opens it up to all people, he decides to not stay there with those people who are hiding from the Empire, because he learned his lesson from Fallen Order, which was that he cannot run away from this fight. By the end of Jedi Survivor, he comes to the conclusion that maybe he can, maybe he can't defeat the Empire, but his hope in the future is not completely gone. He will do what he can for who he can while he's here. And he is no longer on this one-man suicide mission trying to cause as much damage to the Empire as possible. His ideology has shifted, and he has found a good middle ground between who he is at the beginning of Survivor and who he was at the end of Fallen Order. The story of Jedi Survivor is not perfect. It is extremely convoluted, but the character arc that Cal Kestis goes throughout the two games is very well done. And because of this, Star Wars Jedi 3 is literally the only Star Wars thing that I'm looking forward to, like, at all. It's really the only good thing they're making right now. But anyway, that's gonna be all from me. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Do me a favor and comment down below what kind of character analysis you'd like me to do next, and I'll add them to my list. And always remember, y'all be safe out there, you hear?